Why, hello there, everybody. It's good to see you all. I have returned with a brand new update video. So, let's get started. So, my day started at around, I'd say 10:30, something like that. When I got up, I decided to drink some water. I was very thirsty and dehydrated. Used the restroom. And then I was trying to find something interesting to watch on YouTube. I was scrolling, trying to find anything. Probably found a few things that were mildly amusing, but none of them really stuck to my mind. Eventually, I did come across a video from the YouTube channel YMS where the host of the channel, Adam, and his buddies were watching and making fun of this movie called Lucy. I've seen his other videos that were labeled Adam and Pals before, and I found all of them to be very entertaining and funny. So I decided I would lock into that video as the video I would be watching. But I wanted to eat something while watching the video, and then I decided to dig around for some change around my room to see if I could find anything to use for money for the meal. Reason being was I had a lot of quarters and I didn't really want to get into my bank account um, because I didn't want to touch any money in there for a while. I'd rather use the money I already have. You know that funny feeling you get when like you buy something using real money instead of using your card, and you check your bank statement and it didn't lower because it feels like, "Ooh, I got that for free," when in reality you didn't get it for free. You just used a different form of currency, but because your number didn't go down on your statement, it feels like it didn't, you know, you didn't spend any money, even though you did. That's the best way I can describe it. It's a funny feeling. I know I'm not the only one who has this because I remember watching a video on YouTube, or not a video, but like a meme posted on a YouTube community page, making the very same joke. So yeah, I brought these quarters with me to a nearby restaurant. I got a double cheeseburger with fries and a Diet Pepsi. I returned home and I greeted my sister who was up. I asked her if she wanted some fries. She said yes, so she got about two fries. And then when I turned around to go into my room, I bumped against a chair and I caught myself from accidentally dropping any food. And then my sister joked, saying because I shared the fries with her, it was good karma I built that allowed me to save my food from falling on the floor. And I would have to agree with that, but also I thought it was a very funny observation. I told her what I was watching, and then I'd report on what I thought about it. And then I went to my room and I started watching this video from YMS, Adam and Pals, Watch Lucy. And basically, the movie was very dumb, from what I could tell from watching these guys making fun of it. It was basically like this lady played by Scarlett Johansson who like has this like boyfriend who is like part of like the mafia, I think, or like an illegal like group that's smuggling illegal material. And they decide to use her as a mule to carry this illegal drug that apparently is able to unlock 100% of your brain capacity. and they wanted to smuggle it. Like they knit it inside of her belly across the border instead of just, I don't know, like giving her a bag or whatever. Seems kind of like a dumb way of going about that. But then like she's like caught by someone who like punches or kicks her repeatedly in the tummy, and then like that unleashes the drug inside of her, and that causes her to start like bending and twisting reality and become super smart. And then she's able to do a bunch of ridiculous things like, make people float in the air, and then like, dodge and like shoot without having to aim and stuff. And she does a bunch of like morally questionable things throughout the movie, like shooting some random strangers or someone being operated on by doctors and then threatening doctors. Like she seems more of a threat to everyday citizens than like the mafia she was working for was. So it was just a really ridiculous movie. Um, I remember hearing all about like the gimmick of, ooh, this is what happens when you use 100% of your brain power. But the way that the movie was edited, from what I was watching through the YouTube video, very much felt like how modern YouTube videos are edited, where like, this is what I did when I was at 1% brain capacity. This is what I did when I was at 20% brain capacity. Now 30. And it's like they use the numbers and they show like how like the person increasingly gets more power as the video goes along. And it felt very similar to how like modern videos are made like that. And it was kind of funny, like that parallel. It tickled me. Yeah, so I when I was done, I told my sister about that, and yeah, she told me that like she remembered like she watched the movie about a year ago, and she agreed it was a very dumb movie. Um, yeah, and I would have to agree with her. It was very silly. Um, the commentary from the group watching the movie was pretty funny. Some funny editing here and there. Then after that, I remember I threw away, the trash that accumulated from eating the food, and I was very satisfied with that meal. And I decided I would spend my time um, after watching that video going for a half-hour long tech-free walk. I was feeling very fatigued, very lethargic, very just brain foggy, and just there was a heavy mental load inside of my mind. And I felt like I needed to do something to counteract that. So I was like, well, what better way to counteract it than going for a walk? So I put on some deodorant. Sorry, my bad. Not deodorant. Sunscreen. I put on some sunscreen, SP50, I believe it was called, SPF 50. And then I said goodbye to my family friend, my sister, and I went off to walk for about 30 minutes in the hot summer sun. I think it was like 87 degrees today. So, yeah, I enjoyed my time away from the electronics. I felt very rejuvenated and clear headed afterwards. And yeah, when I arrived back, um, I remember my sister gave me like a beverage that she made. It was like peanut butter chocolate. Um, there was also like coke. There was cocoa powder, all manner of different material, brown sugar. So yeah, I had that. I think I was having that while watching the Lucy review actually. So it was before my half-hour walk. It was pretty good. And yeah, when I returned from my walk, um, I remember I decided to uh, do some breath work because I wanted to clear my mind. I was feeling a little like fatigued and like tired still. So I sat on my bed. I put on a Breath with Sandy video. I followed the breathing exercise as best as I possibly could. And yeah, I was in a very relaxed and tranquil state after doing that. It was quite nice indeed. Then our family friend came in and asked if I wanted some londigas, which is meatball soup, and I said sure, that sounds good. So they made the meatball soup for me. I went ahead and got some. I was eating that, and while I was eating it, I was watching this old movie, Triplets de Belleville. Um, I actually started watching it a little earlier, but like about 2 days ago, I think, or something like that. But I decided to rather watch something else. But then I decided to watch it again today, or continue. It's a very dark, edgy kind of movie, very unexpectedly, because you look at it, you're just like, oh, this 2D animated film with a cute art style. How could it be so dark and edgy? But apparently, it can be. It's like about like this like boy who is being raised by his grandmother, and his grandmother wants to like give do do like support him or feed into any interests he has. And apparently like the boy's like parents, like they were cyclers, and he dreamed of being a cycler because the grandmother like looked into his diary when he wasn't looking, and so she decided to get him like his first bike, and when he got it, he was like super happy about it. But then we cut like years into the future when all of like civilization has been more modernized, and their house, which used to live in a quiet, like peaceful valley, is now like extremely industrialized with like a giant train that's like pushing against their like tower and stuff. And basically now the grandmother is kind of like coaching the boy who looks to be like in his like late teens, early 20s now, um, to be the best like cyclist he can be. But like now the boy looks like super tired and exhausted from doing all that work. But like the grandmother's kind of prepping and priming him to be like a strong human workhorse. She even made this setup where like he can continue testing his cycling skills by keeping the music playing on like a record. Um, and yeah, like the dog looks super miserable throughout the whole like movie so far, where he just kind of has this sad but like oddly content look as well. Very odd, but he basically wants like food, but like they just came back from a long journey, so they're super tired. And then like the boy finally decides to give him his leftovers, and then the next day they're like doing this special like circuit, like cycling circuit. But then out of nowhere, there's like this mafia that comes in, and they like are looking for cyclists who are off the beat track, who are all exhausted, and they essentially traffic them into like America, where they have to go through this like you know cycling race, and whoever and so now like they're like held prisoners. And so the grandma finds out about this. The reason why they're able to catch the main character is because the grandma was following her grandson, but then like the mafia threw some nails on their under their car, and it popped the wheels, so they had to change the wheels. And by the time they were able to get back there, they noticed his bike was left in the middle of the road. They're like, what's going on? And then when they're like going upwards and near the ceremony where a guy won, who wasn't like the main character, um, there was this similar car that the grandmother noticed that they were driving, and she was like, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" And they noticed like the guy's hat was left in the car, so luckily the dog was there with him, so she has the dog sniff the hat, and then like the dog tracks him to this giant comically sized like boat that's like heading off. And so she's able to convince this guy like to drive like this like boat um across the sea, but he thinks that she's just going in for a 20-minute ride because that's all the money she can afford. But in reality, she is going for way longer than 20 minutes. The guy waits there and realizes, oh no, one of my boats has been stolen. And but she's doing it for a good cause. She's trying to get her son back, or her grandson actually. And so, like through many trials, tribulations, crossing the sea and seeing a giant whale that hits like the water and doesn't look very convincingly giant at all. Definitely no monstro, that's for sure. Um, Finally arrive to America, and you know it's America because you see the Statue of Liberty. But if the Statue of Liberty was very fat, and yeah, now the grandmother is there, but she doesn't know where her grandson is, and so she doesn't really know how to survive in the streets of New York. But then she comes across these three old women who used to be like vaudeville performers in one second. Okay, cool. In like this old like show that she watched with her grandson, and they're called like the Triplets de Belleville, and they decide to take her in after like the grandma proves that she's like able to entertain and has a good rhythm by getting a bicycle wheel and like hitting in just the right way to create like a fun little scene with these triplets where they all do their like a cappella and do a little dancing, and they're like all old and stuff, but like they still got it in terms of like their act. So they decide to take her in because she amused them, and that's where I was at with the story. It's pretty interesting. It's very unique. I can't say I've seen a story like this before. I mean, technically, yes, I have seen this story before. I watched this movie way back in like 2008 or nine when I was like, you know, 9 or 10 years old. So this is this movie's deep cut in terms of like when I watched it. Even though I think the movie came out in the early 2000s, but I didn't watch it until the late 2000s when I was a little older. And so, revisiting this story, one of the things I admire about it is just the blank determination of the grandmother. She doesn't really freak out about her grandson missing. She kind of just is matter of fact about what to do next. Like, oh, grandson, their bike is there. Okay, well, let's keep on going. Oh, what's this? The car that we were driving, but it it's open and it's in the back of an alley. That's suspicious. Oh, what? My grandson's cap? Oh, okay. Sniff the cap, dog. Where is he? Oh, he's over there in the giant boat. Okay, look, we're gonna go get him. And so, just very practical character that I very much appreciated, and I just thought it was very funny how like straight to business and no messing around this character was. I thought that was funny. Yeah. So, and the introduction of the triplets was the second introduction. The original was the beginning of the movie when they went for a water hose, like 1930s or 40s cartoon style, which is funny because it was like very appropriate to like how animation looked at that point in time. So replicating that with like showing old cartoons is a really fun and interesting idea. It kind of makes me wish like if there was like a movie animated film based off of stuff before animation existed, like I don't know, cave paintings for some reason, like they would like animate the whole movie with like a cave painting texture. I mean, I know that would be kind of hard to keep narratively interesting for like an hour and a half, but it would be really cool. Um, and interesting. But anyways, yeah, their second introduction, they're like, they're old, but they've still got the juice, and they're clearly happy to be together as a family, and that's cool. So yeah, and the son, like he seems kind of like similar to the grandmother, like matter of fact, just in it to get it done, and maybe in a way kind of detached for some reason. Not exactly sure why. I get a read on that, but that's how I read that character. All right, well, moving along. After watching a bit of that, I decided to listen to the breath with Sandy and do the breath work. I completely blinked out on the Belleville thing until when I was retracing my steps mentally. So yeah, I did some breath work on my bed, and then I relaxed for a good, like, I think a half hour, I think. And then when I got up, I decided um, to make the rest of my cookies that I made like 3 days ago, I think. I preheated the oven. I got parchment paper. I cut it up, and then my mom arrived. I greeted her, and our family friend decided to heat up some meat and make tacos with that, and asked if I want any, and I was unsure about that, so I was like, I don't know. And she said, well, there's meat here if you would like to make some, just to warm some tortillas and throw the meat on. I was like, well, okay. And then my mom decided to give me one of hers. She got two, but she said she wasn't very hungry, so she gave me one. And then after that, I I remember we were eating and we were like talking about like the round trip traveling, like, and how much it would cost to get from one location to the next, either through the train or plane or cars or renting cars. And it was a really complex conversation. Oh my gosh, I completely blanked out on this. I edited that crocodile video that I talked about last video, around between the time before I decided to watch the Triplets de Belleville on my TV and right after returning from my half-hour walk. Um, I completely blanked out on that. Like, my memory is all fragmented and stuff. But yeah, so I did that. It took me about like an hour and a half to 2 hours to edit that video, down from like, I think it was like 14 minutes or 12 minutes, all the way down to like not like 8 minutes and 5 seconds. I was cutting a lot of ums and uhs and putting some funny editing and voice filters and, video effects in there on the editing software on my phone called InShot. Yeah, and then I posted that. You can watch it on the channel if you're interested. I think it was called Rest in Peace Alligator Snack Review. Yeah, I was like, oh, the alligator's gone, but I guess I'm eating the alligator now. It's a sentence I never thought I'd say, but here we are. Okay, anywho. So yeah, we move up, and then, the cookies are ready. My sister comes in. Me, my mom, our family friend, and my sister all have the cookies. We like them. And I forgot to mention, around the time when I was heating up the oven, preparing the cookies before my mom arrived, my sister suggested the idea of making pizza, homemade pizza. But I said, well, that's cool. That does require a lot of time. Like, for me, it takes at least 3 hours to make a homemade pizza. From kneading and getting the dough to rise to making like the add-ons. So yeah, maybe on Monday. But as for today, no dice. Just like, all right. But then, yeah. So we're gonna jump forward. Finished eating that food. Had those cookies. My sister had one. My mom had one. Family friend had one. I had one. And then me and my sister split the last one because there was 5 that were made. And then I made some coffee. And I asked my mom if she wanted to watch the alligator snack review video that I made today, and she said sure. So we went over to the den, we tuned up the television, we watched the video, and yeah, it was very Very fun, very interesting video. I did get some laughs by my mom and my sister, which was the goal. I was editing that video to try to get laughs, and I was able to, so that felt nice. It's always good when you're trying to aim for humor and then you end up getting it. Very cool. The funniest thing that I heard after the video was done was that I put like a alligator behind me at the end of the video, and then my mom suggested you should have had a ending where the alligator eats like human sticks as like revenge. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of dark, but also kind of funny too. And then after that, we were like, there was this video of this like guy talking about like NASA news, and I knew it was like a AI avatar, but my sister didn't believe me and tried to look up that if it was a real guy. She said, "Oh no, it is," and I'm like, "No, this is clearly like AI generated avatar." And then I asked Gemini, and then Gemini said, "Yeah, this is AI avatar." Then my sister decided to reverse image search the guy by taking a picture of him off the TV screen, then circling him and reverse searching that on Google, and then Google then did confirm that it was an AI avatar. So, the fact that they were having difficulty discerning if it was a real person or not, it does have me extremely worried. It's like, well, we can't really trust what we see online anymore with our own eyes. Freaky future we live in, that's for sure. Dawn of mass deception. Very sad. Um, and then we were just browsing, trying to find something else to watch, and then there was like this random video recommended of this Iranian couple living in a desert farm with. They were in an adobe, and they had like a water reservoir with like cattle, and me and my mom decided we were going to watch that. Before we did, I decided to make some snacks for us. I made some cinnamon toast crunch and waffles, and put some butter on that, and brown sugar on the toast with cinnamon and butter, and syrup on the waffles. And then me and my mom split that, and I had coffee to watch with that, and then I made tea with brown sugar and milk for my mom. Yeah, we watched this video. It was very relaxing, strangely. I don't know why, but just watching this couple live in complete solitude and silence, and just doing a job they've been doing ever since they were like, I don't know, living there, I guess. Something about just put my mind at ease just watching it. It kind of felt like, wow, I kind of wish I lived in this type of situation. But then I think about it, I'm like, oh, I'm so used to the amenities here, like, running water and like, showers and controlled like, air conditioning and all that, that living in an environment like that would be such a culture shock. And I remember me and my mom did some research about like what it would be like living there, and like apparently they spritz water on the ground because the ground's super dusty, and like putting water on it like helps keep dust from blowing into their adobe house. Their dog has a spiked collar, and apparently the reason why is because they're like wolves that like go after livestock, and the dog protects the livestock. And apparently wolves always go for the throws, their first like main way of taking out the dog. But because the dog has a spiky collar, it deters the wolves from taking the dog out, so the dog has a fighting chance of survival. And apparently their irrigation, their like water system, it like they literally get their water from precipitation and like mountain, like ice and snow like melting into like layers of rock that absorbs the water, and then layers of it like naturally recycles back into their like reservoir, which I didn't know that that could happen. Like you basically have running water straight out of nature. I think that's really cool, and it's like a natural filtration system that just and seemingly endlessly runs. Like it makes you wonder, man. I kind of wish that we could figure out how to do that here, but I guess not every place is set up like that, and so we have to have artificial like water ran systems, but that so much I learned from just asking questions to Claude Fable 5 on max setting about this their living situation there. It was a really educational experience. And then after we were done watching that, I decided I would go off and go for a walk around the neighborhood. I was listening to some music, and I decided to have a chat with Fable 5 about how I could better optimize my time. It said, well, when you wake up, instead of watching videos, you should probably go for like a 20-minute walk and then make one device designated to YouTube. And then every other device has its own designated purpose, instead of making one device you're all on one device, because then you put too much energy into it and then it zaps you and all of your mental energy just goes away, and that's not good. So I was like, oh, interesting. And then eventually I was done with my walk. I decided to meditate outside. Felt pretty good being outside, looking up the stars, closing my eyes and focusing on my breathing. Eventually, I went into the house. I made some popcorn. I had that. I put a little too much of that flavicle seasoning on the popcorn, because it was a little bit on the salty side. Then I had this stint where I was like taking YouTube transcripts, putting them through Gemini to be rewritten as like audiobooks, then putting them through 11 Reader to be read by Stanley through 11 Lab software, which was trippy, but weirdly engaging. And then after all of that, I did a lot of research on like these UAP stories that were like on Eyes on Cinema, and then I sent the transcripts to Claude Fable 5 and asked if there was any verifiable evidence to prove that these testimonies were real. And always would say, man, nah, there's always like a problem with them. Like, there's no definitive proof. It's just hearsay or like circular reasoning. And yeah, hearing like Claude say that and provide some evidence and names, like, it was a bit disheartening, not gonna lie, because I've been the subject for a long time. But I guess it's better to know than to believe, because if you know, then you can't be played like a fool. So that's cool, I guess. But on the other hand, it is like, oh, I wanted some of this to be true. But on the other hand, it's better that I know whether this is true or not. And apparently, a lot of it, there's still a lot there's room for debate here and there, but a lot that is given explanations for. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Not all of it, I will say, but there was a lot of it. Well, anyways, moving along from that, I took my vitamins, I brushed my teeth, and I decided to record this video. So yeah, I'm going to publish this bad boy, and then I'm going to go to bed. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone, and have yourselves a good night, or morning, or day. Bye.